Dr. Stephen Haymon was with us yesterday on Harvest. We just absolutely had to have him back. He brings us passion ministry and 38 years of experience as a psychotherapist to bear upon one of the most damaging forces in our lives today, and that is stress. Yesterday we heard some great sound biblical principles from Dr. Haymon on how to deal with stress and not only survive but conquer its consequences and cope with its effects in our lives. And we're so happy to have you back with us today, sir.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Yes. We talked a lot about stress yesterday, and I think we've got so many modern-day examples, even just this last week with Whitney Houston.
Yes, Dr. Haymon, I watched the homegoing service of Whitney Houston, and of course, you know, we all know that she had a struggle with addictions. She struggled with, well, that's what it is. But you said yesterday that it intensifies our reaction. Addictions intensify our reactions to stress. In her case, I mean, does that then make the person want more of the drug, or how does that play out?
Well, let's talk about what addiction does.
Okay.
First of all, it's a distraction. It is not a resolution. It does not resolve any issues in our lives. And so the whole purpose of doing addiction, whether it's pornography, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whatever, gambling, whatever we use, what we're really trying to do is mitigate the effects, these feelings we really don't like to have. So when a person is utilizing the substance, whether it's crack cocaine, whether it's heroin, whether it's marijuana or whatever, they're really looking for relief. And so when they do it, momentarily they feel differently. And they equate feeling differently with feeling better. So they go to this empty well. Whatever was causing this enmity or this dissidence that's within them, it's not really addressed. So they go to the well, they feel differently as they're coming back, and they start looking at those issues that they didn't like in the first place, whether they're self-esteem issues, insecurities, or whatever. And then they go back to the well again, and then they go back to the well again, and pretty soon they're dealing in a fantasy world. And every time they look at reality, it becomes so frightening for them. So they end up going back to the well. What you and I had talked about earlier is the holistic approach. Anybody who is struggling with addiction, in order for them to be successful with them, they have to look at every dimension of their lives. So it's more than just going to church. It's more than going into a treatment program. You have to look at the people you're dealing with. You have to look at yourself and what are those issues you need to address about yourself. You have to look at every aspect of your life. Spiritually, physically, emotionally, and mentally, as we talked about just yesterday. So the reason why I believe, and I didn't talk to the young lady, I believe that she was not successful in conquering the effects of the addiction was because it was never addressed. It was never addressed holistically.
Yeah. So really they're just little Band-Aids to mitigate the underlying causes. So to deal with an addiction, to deal with a depression, to deal with anxiety or fear, you're not just dealing with the emotion or the manifestation of what's underneath. You really got to dig down deep as a person and get to the bottom of what's causing your insecurity, your stress, whatever it may be.
Absolutely. Band-Aid, we could say that. We can call it mitigation. We can call it distraction or whatever. But the core issues have to be dealt with. Now, that's where the God aspect comes in. And when I said God aspect, because we really have to, if I bought a BlackBerry, and I did, I don't like my BlackBerry, but anyway, I bought a BlackBerry. I don't ever think I really fully utilized it because I didn't go to the manufacturer specifications of how to use it. The issue for us, we meander through life because we never go to the manufacturer of who we are and what he has put in us. So one of the things I think that's extremely important with people who are struggling with addictions is you go to God. And again, that's not quoting scriptures. It's not jumping up and down. It's not necessarily speaking in tongues. And it's not just reading the Bible. It's look. I look a certain way. I feel a certain way. I need your help to overcome these feelings that I don't like having. And at maturity, at incremental levels, he exposed us to what we need to change about ourselves. If we don't change the way we think, we don't change our behavior.
Well, what about this, Dr. Haymon? I was a Sunday school teacher for many years, and I taught younger children, and I've never seen so much anxiety. Children with so much anxiety, which leads to stress as well. You know, they were worried about their grades, but mainly about issues concerning bullying or, self-esteem issues. Would you address that?
Great.
Why would a kid have such worries?
Yes,
Well,
kids.
I was just about to answer that question. Let me tell you this. Remember, I was talking about the other day. I was talking about my me being a grandfather to my grandson, and I said when he was with me, no matter what's going on, he is really, really calm. Our children take their cues from their parents, and their parents are overwhelmed. Listen, when I grew up, there was a one parent working, and the other parent was there in the household. Now we have both parents working, both have careers, both of them are preoccupied with everything going on. They're feeling stressed and they're reacting. And here they are modeling for the kids. So when the kids are dealing with the things that are before them, they're taking their cues from their mother and father. So they are learning how not to deal with stress or anxiety or fears from their parents. So if the parents are grounded, if they're stable, if they have a perspective regarding life of being in control, then the children, they don't get all up in arms. So the problem is, and I'm talking about the younger children and all the way up to 17 or 18, because what we're doing is modeling for our kids what we want them to become. So the problem is, if the parents are feeling out of control, and they're going to things to mitigate their stress, and they're not dealing with things, and they're isolating, and they can't even comfort their kids. So that just came to my mind. I've done this for almost 40 years, and my baby son said I was talking to him one day, and I was saying, yeah, I take you to the basketball games, I take you to the movies, I take you to the gym with me, and we go to dinner and all this other stuff. And I was saying, boy, I'm a great father. And he said, I understood. Now, he was older. He said, but I think he was 16 or 17. He said, I understood exactly what you were doing. You were available for everyone else. But when the kids were bullying me and when the teachers were doing things to me, yes, you were there a lot. But when I really needed you, you weren't there. And so it slapped me in my face. Bow, okay. So what I'm saying is, parents are so preoccupied with what's going on in their lives, they're unavailable for their kids. And that's the reason why the kids are stressing and they're feeling anxiety. And we have so many kids committing suicide and so many kids dealing with depression now. Why? Because they're taking their cues from their father and mother who's not available for them.
Wow. So how do we make those changes? How do we reverse that? I'm sure we've got parents watching today. We've got young people watching today. How do we change that in our lives if that's been the norm for the last few years?
It is simple, but yet complex. In order to make a relationship, a marriage work, it starts with communication. And communication is not just me talking. I have to listen. I have to get into your mind, what's important to you, the things you want to do, as opposed to I want to do this, and so you're going to do it. So just like marriages are on the rocks today, 70% of the marriages nowadays are ending up in divorce. The reason is people are not communicating. So if I'm not communicating with my spouse and I have ill feeling towards that person and I'm isolating from that person, the kids are taking cues from that. But also, if I'm not available for my spouse, how am I going to be available for my kids? And my kids need me because I'm rearing my children, not for today, but for where they will be. That's, and I don't want to be negative, but I believe that by Whitney not having certain things, certain elements in her life, that's the reason why she latched on to the distractions of drugs.
Wow. Well, thank you again for joining us, Dr. Stephen Haymon, author of Stress, Climbing Out of the Pits with God. We got a lot into the spiritual aspects yesterday, a little bit more into some of the the sole areas today. But to connect with Dr. Haymon, go to greaterinsight.net, or you can go to harvest-tv.com, click on Show Info on the menu bar. Find an easy way to link back to his website as well and pick up a copy of Stress for yourself. How to deal with it, not just how to cope, but how to conquer, in Jesus' name. Harvest is going to be back in just a moment.